all a question. Where is one of the most urbanized countries that you can think of? Can anyone name me one country? Hmm.
Will be facilitating our session on cultivating global citizens through nature-based education rooted in nature. Laura Lee, a value-driven advocate for equity in technologies, altruistic potential, focuses on leadership, gender, and education. Yat Jing champions planetary kindness, leading workshops, events, and nature-based tours to inspire sustainable choices and promote peace education. Together, they will explore cultivating global citizens through nature-based education. A big welcome to Laura Lee and Yat Jing. Thank you and welcome to the session.
Thank you very much. And I apologize for my enthusiasm. So, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone, again. Yes, so my question was, where is one of the most urbanized countries that you can think of? Can anyone name me one? Okay, I see that we have an answer. Tokyo. Yeah, it's a very urbanized city, right? Yes, so actually, one other country is Singapore. Yes, where 100% of the population lives in urban areas, a city both of us currently reside and call home. Hello, my name is Laurel, and I am an urban forest school guide, while my co-presenter, Zijing, is a nature guide and an SDG workshop facilitator. While we do not have a forest in our backyards like some of you do, through our work, we hope to explore with you today how immersing ourselves in nature-based education, we can cultivate global citizens. In today's fast-paced world, a significant global population lives in cities. Our lifestyles are also becoming more sedentary. Those of us dwelling in exclusively urbanized regions have distanced ourselves from the natural world. We have forgotten our interconnectedness to the plants and the animals. We have forgotten the ancient wisdom and stories of our ancestors. Without the knowledge and a clear understanding of our interlinked biosphere, our human species is advancing only in silos, considering the immediate course of action that benefits us and our economy, and disregarding the harms and ills these actions have brought to the natural world, and in turn, ourselves as well. It is not only in the way modern humans farm, build, or innovate. This detachment is also found in our education system and the language that we use. In our increasingly polarized world and disconnect with the environment, there is a pressing need for a new generation of global citizens to awaken to the crucial responsibilities that our world demands of us today. And our recommendation today is to rebuild that connection through conscious and intentional interactions to live and learn with the natural world. Before we delve deeper today, here are three theories and frameworks that guide our presentation. First, I'd like to introduce the 6 Forest School principles. So Forest School is an educational pedagogy that started from Denmark in the 1950s, and it takes place in a natural setting over an extended period of time and promotes holistic learning. So these six key principles are according to the Forest School Association. So what I mentioned, the three of them just now, the other three, it is also child-led. It supports the learner in taking supported risks and to have better assessment of the risk that they are taking. And lastly, all forest school coach have to go through training in order to constantly improve on on themselves. So the second theory that I'm going to speak about is according to Otto and Pansini in 2017. They researched that education that is conducted directly in nature or close to nature can increase environmental knowledge and foster nature connectedness. Both are important, because individuals can learn what are the best kinds of action to take through direct participation and continuous immersion can prompt further curiosity and respect towards life outside of our own. And lastly, we are going to talk about global citizenship. So, for global citizenship, perhaps many people would think, oh, global citizen is someone who is well traveled, who is a polyglot. But more than that, Ikeda urges that there are three qualities that we should keep in mind. First, the wisdom to perceive the interconnectedness of all life. And second, the courage not to fear or deny difference, but to respect and strive to understand people of different cultures and to grow from encounters with them. And third, the compassion to maintain an imaginative empathy that reaches beyond one's immediate surroundings and extends to those suffering in distant places. So, without further ado, we would like to share our findings with you, and we have three major findings. So, the first finding is through establishing boundaries and essential agreements and with the children, we allow them to have their own reflections with their relationship with the world. So many times, as adults, we are especially afraid to bring children out into the wilderness or even just outside. We are afraid that, they wouldn't be able to take care of themselves, they would be in danger, and many, many other concerns. However, through our experience as a forest school coach and a nature guide, we realized that if we set essential agreements with them before, the children can have a safe and enjoyable time outdoors. Of course, at the beginning, it takes reminders and practice, but over a period of time, as short as 8 weeks, we were able to see that children do learn and are able to take supported risks in the decisions that they make. And when they are able to assess risk independently, they have that sense of security and are able to regulate their own emotions. And this is the time that it's the first building block in becoming a global citizen. So one needs to learn to care for themselves before they have the capacity to care for other people. So I would like to share an experience that I have with a child. So at first, I had a very active child coming to my class, and he was not aware of any water safety. So in forest school, as an urban forest school coach, what I do is I will share with them if we are near any bodies of water. We would tell them that you have to lower yourself, put your knees on the ground, and you can look into the body of water to see what's there, and we can have a safe interaction like this. So, but at the start, the child was so excited and he was just jumping and trying to see. And it actually worried me at first, of course, as with my other colleagues too. However, after when we were able to actually really tell the child, like, oh, this is what we can do before we head to that area. And after a few weeks, we could see that he automatically could do it by himself at 3 years old. And I think this was something that was really, really remarkable because at 3 years old, we wouldn't think that they are able to, follow instructions and keep themselves safe without the constant reminders of the adults. So next, I would like to pass on to Zijing, my co-presenter, to speak about the second finding.
Thank you, Laurel, and hi everyone. So, from our earlier finding, we found that not only through the actions of taking care of ourselves and taking care of the people around us, we also realized that children develop increased and very functional use of language as well. Yeah. So through peaceable, fun, and gentle communication, forest school and nature-based learning allows children to develop through direct participation, how can we read signages, how can we read signals, how can we write reflections and communicate both verbal and non-verbally through our sensory experiences. And we also sense that there's this level of confidence gained through communicating to each other in nature. As educators, we are often very mindful of the words that we use. It's very easy for us, since many of us are conditioned to say things like, be careful, stop doing that, but we are also training ourselves as nature-based developers, how educators, how can we do better, to communicate with them via gentle words like listen to your body, let's take gentle steps so that we do not trample on anyone's homes, and also how can we look out better for our friends. Yeah. So adults usually, we realize that adults usually don't have this sense of trust, but we also come to understand and learn from our students how we don't actually have to interfere as frequently as we expect. Of course, there's also always this level of supervision, especially when it comes to the potential of coming across crocodiles or at risk of falling into ponds, like Laura mentioned earlier. So, how can we use peaceful language to teach and guide our learners to observe their surroundings and empower their sense of being able to make independent decisions based on their own observations and experiences. So next we'll go to the third finding, which is to transcend boundaries. Oh, sorry, my slide isn't working, but let me just unshare first. Yeah. So through our practice, right, we ask ourselves, does the practice of learning in nature change the behavior towards the natural world? And we say that it inevitably does. We have witnessed how regular and mindful contact can move our students from the sense of apathy to empathy, in action to action. And in the first couple of sessions, we notice, learners as young as 2 or 3 years old, being really afraid of touching soil, touching sand, touching grass, to developing a sense of confidence when they come into contact with these textures later on. And also, we notice how learners do reflect their parents or society's cultural stereotypes of how a slug can be creepy or scary, or how it can be how we may be fearful when we encounter a pack of monkeys. But over time, through regular encounters with this wildlife, we build a certain intimacy and stable awareness that while we are living our life fully, another life form is also living theirs fully as well. And we notice this shift in perspective there, and this certain sense of unlearning and a shift of our personal biases from this regarding where we are stepping on at first to this uncertainty of, oh, maybe I should not take another step because I'm not sure what is under this shoreline, whether there are any fishes that are living at the shore, and perhaps I don't dare to take the next step, and moving from that fear and uncertainty towards being mindful and appreciative of even the presence of the tiniest of ants and worms. Yeah. I once have a student who, when we start to come into deeper appreciation of nature, she even found herself being conscious about killing mosquitoes. Yeah. So that's something that, we do learn and observe through our students as well, and we become less able to consciously destroy or cause harm to those different from ourselves. And rather than seeing the other realms as non-human, we move to see them as more than human. So eco-philosopher David Abram suggests that nature connection can help one become less self-centered, or even suggests we can become less human-centered, something that I'm sure all of us as global citizen educators and administrators will be keen in promoting, right? Yeah, so in one of our Planet Kindness workshop that Laura and I both run with a vegan dessert brand, we also witnessed that students return afterwards with their families and share how now they start to think about where their food come from and who's laboring for their food that they eat and the clothes that they wear. So let me just share my slide again. Oh, give me a moment here. Are you able to see it? Oh, wait. Share. Okay. So as This writer, Richard Louv, mentioned, we cannot protect something that we do not love, and we cannot love what we do not know. We cannot know what we do not see, or hear, or sense. Through our regular opportunities of interaction, it can lead us towards becoming more empathetic and transformative in our actions. And through this, we can change the way we live to sustaining the lives of maple trees, whales, slugs, and people. And of course, now that we talk about how nature has been beneficial for us in education, let me briefly share some of the limitations that we face working in nature, or rather working with nature. So we do face challenges in providing accessibility and inclusivity for all. And although we have seen through since the pandemic that interest in nature-based learning and forest school has increased, but it has not been accessible to all people. Forest school and nature enrichment programs can be expensive, and we find that attendees usually come from a very similar socio-economic background. But we are hoping to change that. So, amongst the practitioners and the and industry players, there are a number of nature-based groups. They are creating enrichment sessions with social welfare organizations and working to provide opportunities for marginalized communities to also have nature-based learning as well. We also realize how every learner is different in their learning styles and pace and require different kind of support. But when it comes to people with disabilities, we find that sometimes we may not have sufficient spaces or facilities to facilitate that kind of outdoor playing. And that's why we are working with different community partners to provide the access as well. But we do find that learners, whether able or disabled or of any other marginalized groups, we find that all people, once coming into contact with nature, can develop new ways of coping and learning how to interact with nature. How do we overcome the natural obstacles through moving through the tree roots and rocks? How can we strengthen our physical development and motor skills? How, through our reflection circles, we observe confidence gain through these repeated sessions? Yeah. So the good news is that we see parents, educators, and organizations demanding and also working together to provide more equitable access and spaces. And this is very important from an ecological perspective. As we know, sea levels have continued to rise, and we find ourselves experiencing record-breaking summer temperatures every year. So not just some of us, all of us are at risk. And the communities that are contributing least to the climate crisis are usually the one most vulnerable. So how can we practice more inclusive designs in education to engage all stakeholders? To answer that, we concur that educators will have to work with the largest stakeholders, and this includes the ants, the birds, the flowers, and the trees. This includes working with nature. So we also understand that perhaps today we are preaching to the converted. And while many of us already know the benefits of nature connection, we acknowledge that it's not easy to implement change within the systems that we currently work with. So at the end of the day, we have to remind and ask ourselves, who benefit the most from mindful nature-based education? In fact, it's all of us, the whole of society. And this includes all of you as educators as well. Educators' well-beings are as vital as learners' well-beings. So perhaps we encourage all of you to start from yourselves today. Let's head out for a walk after this conference ends and smell the trees and greet the birds. And even if some of us cannot afford to do so, studies show that even exposures to pictures of nature can enhance our well-being as well. So, as we all know, global citizenship includes is inclusive in all of sustainable development goals. And in Sustainable Development Goal 4.7, it encourages us to consider how by 2030, how can we ensure all learners to acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, including among others through education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and non-violence, global citizenship, and appreciation of cultural diversity and of culture's contribution to sustainable development. So we leave you with the following thought from Daisaku Ikeda. Only when we living beings are connected to nature and engaged with nature are we truly alive and vigorous. To really be alive, one must be under the sun, the moon, the shining stars, surrounded by the beautiful greenery and pure waters of the natural world. A dirty, foul environment is not natural. When people live in such environments, our hearts become polluted too. That is the oneness of life and environment. And with this, we end our sharing today. Thank you. Oh, and also we'd like to ask if anyone have any questions of our sharing so far. Feel free to uh, add in the chat below. We'll respond to them. Oh, we have one. So there's one question that says that language matters. How can we as adults unlearn bad language habits? Thanks, Prof. Maria. Laura, would you like to take that question?
Sure. Yeah, I think like as an adult and when I first started in my role, I really felt like wow, it's really hard because it comes so natural. For example, when especially when I'm scared, when I'm afraid like the child would get into danger. Yeah, so like for example, if they are going to fall into a pond or just yeah, these kind of moments. So I actually have been very intentional. I told myself like, okay, this class for 2 hours, I'm going to not say like be careful. Instead, I want to change my language to like listen to your body, like what Zing said just now. So I actually counted how many times I said be careful in my mind before I said it out. So I think it was like 6 times, and I was like wow, like I can do better, Laurel, so yeah, so this is one of the ways that I try to constantly remind myself, but I really have to be really intentional about that. Yeah. The other question is, how do you come out of perfection in nature? Trimmed and extraordinarily beautified manicured road islands and perfect produce in supermarkets. I think this is your question.
Thank you so much. So one thing of working with nature is to be aware that nature is not perfect. Yeah, nature can, it's not only gentle, nature can be violent as well. We have seen footages of how bears chase deers and polar bears chase penguins for food. So we have to remind ourselves that nature is not perfect, and we don't have to be as well. In fact, learning in nature is realizing how through this imperfection we can also thrive. uh, in fact, it is through these manicured gardens and parks that we go to, or these supermarkets that we go to, that perhaps some of you may also realize how it has been, it can be very cold and lifeless. So we really encourage, if even if you cannot uh, do nature-based learning every single day, but at least take a walk, or smell the fresh air. These are very important for us to maintain our own well-being and also further protect the environment that we live in. Perhaps we can wait for one more question if there are any.
So far, we had two questions. So thank you so much for answering these questions so beautifully, and um, talking about Singapore like this, the way you are talking, I've been there, so I know how beautiful and amazing and how advanced it is, and so good to hear all about it. Thank you, Laura Lee. Thank you, yeah, for the presentation and the amazing work that you're doing. Looking forward to more of your reads coming up. And if there's anyone in the audience who would like to contact and be up with their research, they can contact and we will connect you with Laurel and Yap. We will have a 15 minutes break before the next session. So thank you everyone for attending the session. Thank you both of you for excellent, coordinated, and amazing presentation. We
Thank you
will
so
take a
much.
leave.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Bye bye.